Thank you very much. Okay, what I'd like you to do is to take 10 seconds and think about the first 6 months that you taught at university. And then what I want you to do, after 10 seconds, is tell me how it felt for you in that 6 months. Okay, who's got an answer? How did you feel teaching the first time you taught at university?
Out of my depth.
Out of your depth, yep, I resonate with that.
Scared.
Scared, petrified for me. You were just scared, you did well. Anybody else?
Extremely stressed, like a fraud.
Like a fraud, extremely stressed. Oh my goodness. It was great and it was awful. That was my experience. And I just brought up a few things. You know, we could list lots, of course. But when I started teaching approximately 1 million years ago, I didn't have to learn how to use a learning management system. The most technology that I had to know how to use was how to change a light bulb in an overhead projector. Anybody else in that boat? Yep, a few of us. Graduate attributes. They didn't exist back then. But today's people who are coming in brand new to teaching, this is just a small list of the things that they have to do. If I asked you, you could come up with another 20 things to add to that list. It is huge what we ask people to come in and be able to do in their first semester of teaching. So the question is, can our universities support our new teachers through their first semester, regardless of whether they're research students, academics in ongoing positions, sessional staff, professional staff from the library or the IT department or wherever? All sorts of us teach, for crying out loud. Can our universities help us through that first semester? And the answer, of course, is yes, but the answer is also that many don't. Big old Office of Learning and Teaching funded project in 2010 determined that 20% of universities provided no more than a one-day teaching induction program for their staff. 1 day. Do I need to go back to that list? 1 day. 20%. In 2015, a colleague of mine from Learning Transformations Unit, Lyndon Clark, and we managed to contact 36 universities out of the 40, and we determined that 25% provided no more than a 1 day. So it's getting worse, yeah? So I thought, crumbs, surely we can do better than this. Really, as a sector, we can do better than this. So I put in for an Office of Learning and Teaching fellowship. We sort of have to demonstrate that you have a clue about the topic area and that you can bring together a group of people across the sector to work on a problem that has national significance. So we put in an application. All of these folk very kindly signed up to it. That list up there includes all but one that didn't have, something more than 1 day of a teaching induction program. So pretty much everyone bought in who didn't have a program. And I also invited onto the team people from 3 universities that have great programs, but quite different programs. Because we want to develop a national, well, let me call it a MOOC for now. Yeah, a national MOOC. What are we going to do? Okay, so first off, what we're doing, we were successful, much to my surprise. So that was great. And what we've said we would do is, firstly, we'll try and figure out what is a contemporary teaching induction program for 2017. We've started some work on that. We're, knee-deep in a literature review, but there's not a lot of literature on teaching induction. And we're also just about to kick off some research where we capture a snapshot of every teaching induction program that exists in the sector and I've got buy-in. I've got 20 out of 26 people have contacted me and said, yes, yes, we'll be interviewed by you and we will tell you all about our programs. So that's the first part, trying to capture that snapshot of what it looks like or could look like. Then we're going to develop something. Look, we're not 100% sure yet what it will look like because we have to finish the first step before we, design the thing. But it's probably going to be something like 2-hour modules that make sense across the semester. So in orientation week, you'd go into the module on how to teach your first class, whether it's online, whether it's in a laboratory, whether it's face-to-face, tutorial, you name it, whatever it is. Yeah? You can imagine the sorts of things that we need to have in this program. So we want to design something that's not too onerous. 2 hours. People can do it. People can do it in their own time. Even if you're a sessional and you're not being paid to do it, if you want help when you're first teaching, you can get it. It'll be there. I'm also in the process of trying to bring together, basically there's about one person in every university in Australia who's interested in teaching induction and either runs their program or would like to run a program. So I'm getting these people involved, we've got a blog going, we've got discussion going, and what we're going to come up with is a research agenda, because by gum, it's easy for me to stand here and say, I know anecdotally that these teaching induction programs really, really help people. Honestly, I've taught these things. I've had people come up and say, thank God for you, because I would never have gotten through, for the program. But it's mostly anecdotal. There's not a lot of research out there. So we've got to figure out, do these relatively short programs, they're not accredited, they're not graduate certificates, they're short programs, just a semester. Do they change people's teaching conceptions? Do they change people's teaching practice? Do students think that they change teaching practice? These are some of the key questions that we've got to answer, and currently the literature is a little quiet on that. There is some literature, but not a lot. Now, what I would like you to do in the next 5 minutes is talk to someone next to you or behind you or in front of you and come up with a little list of things that you think we really should put into a 6-month teaching induction program for our people who are brand new to teaching. Okay? You've got a few minutes. Go. Okay. I'm keenly interested in your thoughts because, there's 90 million things we could put in it. What do you think should we put in it? Please.
We were just thinking from left field a bit, project management, because essentially each semester you're managing a mini project, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, some people come without any kind of project management skills whatsoever.
Okay, project management skills.
Lesson plans.
Lesson plans. Interesting. George.
From delivery modes like lectures to
Yep.
labs,
Yeah.
very specific to sciences and
Yeah.
technology.
And the great way in terms of having a MOOC is that people who aren't lecturing don't have to go and look at that one. They can go and look at whatever it is they're doing, whatever the mode is. Yeah. Other things.
Use equipment and troubleshooting guide.
Oh, troubleshooting guides. Yep. Little difficult for across the sector, but I think one of the things that we could do there is give people the task of finding out who in their university knows about that sort of stuff, so we can create the scenarios that go wrong, and then how would you find out how to fix this in your university, sort of thing. Yep.
How to use the technologies.
Yep, how-to guides, absolutely.
I was just going to say, because different unis use different technologies, you could just do an overview of the common technology and common problems.
Yeah, yeah.
Rather than
I think you're right. And then, as I say, send them off to find the links in their spaces. Yep.
The learners, about the learners.
Ah.
Who they're actually-
Oh, the students. That's a great idea.
Sorry, I'm a chafy.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so we talk about learners.
Yeah. And again, it's a little tricky because, different universities do have different student cohorts. Yes, there are similarities, absolutely, but there are also differences. So what I'm hopeful for is when we design this program, the universities that don't have a program that decide to use this, what they'll do is they'll run at least a one-dayer in which they talk about their learning management system, their student cohort, their learning and teaching policies, the sorts of things that we can't quite do across the sector in something national like this. Yeah,
A
Pearl.
lot of teachers don't realize that we have a diverse cohort of students, and not everyone learns the same way.
Yes.
So we have those learning difficulties with students. Some people are visual learners, some people learn differently.
Different approaches to learning and facilitating those differences. Yeah. Hi.
How do we know that students are learning? And also another one was looking at how do we create a culture which is inclusive, because in contemporary environments, certainly international students.
Yes. Inclusive cultures. How do we know if students are learning? You know, the sorts of ways that we look at learning outcomes. Is that you again, George?
Well,
Yeah, please. I'm keen.
I think even though it's different in different universities, the support that's there for the academic things like, especially now with these metrics that are coming in, the surveys, and those things, you know, feed it down to or even support for students who are weak or who are,
Yeah.
you know, who are not participating at the beginning.
Yes. It's not just you, the teacher, who has to support students. There's a cadre of people, librarians, IT people, academic skills people, etc., and you really need to make them your best buddies, I think. And so therefore, in our program, we need to be directing people to find out who they are at their universities. Yep, please.
Presentation skills.
Yeah. Yep.
How to actually present to the students, and not just using one method.
Yep. And for how long?
Yeah.
Like not an hour. Please.
For assessment and types of assessment.
Yes, assessment and crucially feedback, of course. I can see a module in about the second week of semester on feedback, because we all know that pretty much every university requires you to have your first assessment task in about the third week of semester. You know, the early warning sorts of assessment tasks.
You just cover it, so interaction, pretty much.
Yeah,
Like, you know, when you're considering different graduate aspects, like, you know, like the ways in which you interact to the students, to Australian with different Asian students, and obviously like, they're going to have a language barrier as well, so it becomes a bit tricky as a tutor, like, can I actually approach it this way or that way?
different ways, yeah, especially in tutorials. Difficult, isn't it? Tutorials are particularly tricky, I think. Any other suggestions, Parul?
Often in tutorials, you have to make the activities user-friendly. Often you give them something and they don't know what to do with it.
Ah, yes. So the design of activities, because active learning is one of the things that we expect our staff to be able to produce, for want of a better way of expressing it.
It's probably like confidence and self-awareness. And I was saying that students can often smell fear, a bit like dogs, and you don't want to be out the front where you lose your confidence in week one. So a bit of mentoring from like full-time academics to the sessionals
Yep.
to help them through that situation,
Yeah.
coping mechanisms,
And it's really interesting that you say that, because I've had since the project's been announced, I've had a number of people who aren't the central teaching induction people, but they're the people with 40 sessionals who've contacted me and say, can we have something for sessionals? And it's like, of course, you'd like to work with us, wouldn't you? Please, fabulous. How are we going for time? We've
Got 1 minute.
question time now? Okay. Just, any last comment as to what we should include in this teaching induction program? Please.
I think it might be hard at the whole scope of the project, but one thing I always get as a dilemma as a tutor was, especially like when I teach, because my background's design, so I teach communication design students, and it's all about how you actually think something innovative, but in the same time you can actually reflect back to your whole journey that we went through. The problem I always found that is when you try, obviously you can't deliver the answer, but you're going to help them to actually get to the answer. The problem is like when students don't really understand how to do it, even though you deliver it. Like the dilemma I always have is like, how much of the spoon feeding do I need to do? And is it like, is it different to what universities actually do it? Like, I think there's a big dilemma I have.
Yeah. I could see over time adding video clips that show interactions between a teacher and students or a group of students, and showed different approaches, some that might be slightly more effective for the students than others perhaps, to address the sort of issue that you're talking about. We can't do everything in the first 12 months of the project, but I suspect that some of us will be invested enough in the project to add to it as we, even after the life of the fellowship. Queries or questions? Please.
Would you integrate a teaching portfolio into it so that if PhD students or someone could then use that to present at job interviews and things like that?
I'm going to need you to repeat your question. Sorry.
What are your thoughts on incorporating a teaching portfolio?
It's really interesting, isn't it? It's like, this is an introduction to teaching. How much can you put in?
But if you're collecting
Yeah.
as you go.
No, I hear exactly what you're saying. And I certainly could envisage having some sort of element, may not be a 2-hour module, but it might be an element about your career and what's the evidence that you need to collect, and this evidence is compiled in a teaching portfolio. Do you know, it's around the evaluation side of things. I think that's how I'd hook in the portfolio stuff. What do you reckon? Would that work?
So Kim,
We try it.
why wouldn't you make it a 2-hour module?
On portfolios? Oh, this is my technology buddy from Learning Transformations Unit. Because what I want to do in the first instance is get across some of the key concepts: feedback, evaluation, being a scholarly teacher, many of the things that you guys have mentioned today. And a teaching portfolio is just one aspect of technology, and there are 90 million aspects of technology.
But what I'm thinking is the reflective
Yeah.
because I think that one of the most important things is, like reflecting. And after you've done a disastrous teaching session, you just go away and think, oh, God, I never want to consult those students again. And, I'm a failure and I can't, and it actually prevents you sometimes from reflecting back on, actually, that was a really simple thing. I forgot to say the sentence at the beginning, which was whatever the sentence was. So reflecting is...
Clearly, the module on reflection could also link to the portfolios.
Yeah, well, and I guess that's what I'm thinking, that portfolios are a lot around reflective practice.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. You've been really helpful. I appreciate it.